Welcome to Romera Records Virtual Cast. Today we have on Jeremiah. How's it going?
Going good, going good. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I did. We were in a Full Sail thing, right? Like the alumni thing.
Yeah, the that alumni Zoom.
Yeah. So I found Jeremiah from there was like I graduated from Full Sail and him, and we had like an alumni like Zoom thing that they have been doing, and then also um God, we were in some other meeting. I forgot what it was.
It was I thought that was because we was in a break room with
Yeah,
one of the alumni music professionals.
I think there was one more that it might have been
Yeah,
two alumni,
you're right.
sure, but there was one
Yeah.
more that we were in. I don't even remember what it was. But anyways, as you can tell, we're active people online. Yeah, let's get into exactly what you do, and then also well, I guess we'll start with like what do you do, and then we'll go back to how'd you start doing what you currently do.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Jeremiah. Right now I currently in Atlanta, just working full time, saving up money, but on the flip side, I do podcasting and also music supervision for films. I'm on my first project on an indie film, so that's in the works. That's going in progress and everything. But yeah, I'm a big music head, big film head, so I just want to combine the two together, and that's where basically Full Sail came in, and all the networking opportunities that I've managed to gain so far, and on this journey of trying to get into this career. Um, Hopefully full time. So, but right now it's more freelancing of what I'm doing right now. So yeah, just following my passion and following this career till some an opportunity comes.
Yeah, something that I've always been interested in when it comes to people who do music supervision and just working on film in general is like their ability to truly understand like what's going on and like how to pick that stuff. Like, when you watch a good show or a good movie and like the sounds are like perfect, I always hear people say like if you don't remember the music or like a certain sounds or something, then the person did a great job because that means like
Mm,
everything just went well. It just fit. It made sense. But like if
right.
if you're just like, ugh, what was that? It kind of stands out. It's
Yeah,
something like that. So, but you could have great music and it stand out, but sometimes things stand out for the wrong reasons.
exactly. Exactly. And I will say like when I was at Full Sail, so I was in there for film and I graduated 2019, but the second to last class we were in post-production sound. So we already shot our thesis film. We've already gone through the visual editing class. Now we're in post-production sound, and our professor was Bill Benton, and he was a Oscar award-winning engineer, a sound engineer for like Dances with Wolves. But he also showed his work on Independence Day.
Mm.
And so, like you said, like back then when I was a kid watching that movie, the sound was fantastic. But obviously, I wasn't solely focused on the sound. But it wasn't until I took his class and he showed us his work, and everything just flowed so smoothly. Even when that scene when the aliens were chasing Will Smith through the canyons
Mm.
before he got shipwrecked, and just like wow, that thing flowed really smooth. Like compared to the sound design in Star Wars, like Star Wars sounds fantastic, but it's more fantasy.
Mm.
Whereas here it sounded more natural in
Mm.
a way. So it was just amazing to look at. So based on your point, like I agree.
Honestly, I never even thought about that, the whole Star Wars and them comparison. Cause like, yeah, Star Wars is more like let me pique your fantasy, you know what I mean? Like let me find out like what you nerd out about. But Independence Day,
Right.
is supposed to be geared toward the everyday person. Like I would say Star Wars, Star Trek, stuff like that is for your
Right.
quote unquote nerd type people who like want that certain sounds or just stuff to be cool. But Independence Day is more or less like let me get your average everyday person to just, sit down and watch this film. Like you don't have to be a fanatic to watch this film. So I never even thought about that.
Yeah, it was until I took his class, because going into Full Sail, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do professionally until I took his class. And mind you, this was the second to last class before he graduated. So he mentioned music supervision and having to be in communication with the music department in order to get the sound design on an equal level as a music, where they got to push the sound effect back or forward or whatever to make space. And I asked him to like elaborate on the music supervisor thing. And obviously he's more sound engineer, so he can only go off on what he's experienced. And so that brought to my attention, and I just felt like, wow, light bulb, just like found my calling right there in that seat, in that front row seat, just talking to him. And so a lot of things in this class really just opened my mind and opened my ears more. No pun intended, but like, yeah, it was amazing, like right there on the spot.
So something that I am a little curious about when it comes to music supervision, how well do you have to be um, how well do you need to be able to talk to people and like communicate with people? Is it very like short, short messages like, "Hey, need some music. These are the standards, blah blah blah," or is it like you kind of need to build a relationship with these kind of people?
Uh, well, it's a little bit of both. Some supervisors have their sort of standards of like pitching their music. Some they don't want to be like bombarded, or, you know, or you rather it's better to have a communication or a friendship or, close network uh with these music supervisors. And some have their method or process or way of pitching. So it depends who you're talking to. And depending on like the style of your music, like it's best to research them and all the projects that they've worked on, what sort of music that they're into more. Uh, I mean, really the position is you accept like a fluid amount of music genres, but it depends on like one, what they're working on, and two, what is it about the lyrics that like stick out to say like, oh, you know what, we could use like a good 15, 20 seconds of these lyrics on this project. And so it really depends on how your music sticks out to them, to a music supervisor's ear. So uh, a relationship would definitely help, but more importantly, you just gotta keep making music. That's all they're going to tell you. Like, just keep making music.
Do you feel like you really need to, you as a person, like need to study, I guess, what's going on in music right now, to be able to be good at your job? Like, do you think like that would help you out?
It definitely would help, I would say. I know I need to be more consistent in studying like the music industry, like what's going on with like streaming, and everything that's happening legally, because it's like the music industry is like it can be very fluid sometimes. And you hear a whole bunch of artists. I just watched a YouTube video as to like why like the music industry and Hollywood's going broke or whatever, something like that. And like you hear all these artists selling their catalogs and their publishing, and that is definitely important because as a music supervisor, you gotta learn, or you gotta know and research who you're going to talk to in order to clear these songs. A lot of times you're not going to talk to the artists at all, especially these mainstream artists. You're not going to talk to them. You're going to talk to the publishers and whoever owns those rights. And a lot of times it's not the artists themselves. So it's very important to like I say to keep up on the times in the music industry, because a lot of things have gone crazy, especially after the pandemic and everything. And so that's very important. And then obviously, uh, you have the special case of what's it called? The show, the Stranger Things, from season 4, how like running up that hill blew up on the stream, and it was already a big song back in the day, but like it kind of like went down a bit. But now Stranger Things, that song hit like, what was it, like a 7,000% streaming increase. So reading stuff like that is like it's very important. I always look at those stuff, especially like variety articles. Those really like help out a lot.
Yeah, the thing I think is crazy about music in movies and stuff like that is like you could change somebody's life. Like you could either even like video games too, right? Like with video games, Madden, 2K, you'll hear music from people you probably never heard of on there. Or I'm a big Need for Speed if they do it right. But
Right.
yeah, I love Need for Speed Heat and what was the other one I liked? The undergrounds were great, like the first ones that were coming out with, but like some of the games great, and then like the music really helped the game. I thought Need for Speed Heat's music was great, and like there was songs on there by artists that I'd never even heard of, and like now I just love to listen specifically to those songs. I haven't dived deep into the artist, but like that is a whole new way that that person can build one revenue and two a new fan base just by whether it's one, five, 10, whoever, however many music supervisors are working on that video game or TV show or movie. It could change somebody's life just by having that music on there because they're now reaching out to a whole new fan base.
Absolutely. And I would say in terms of video game, one thing that really got me to video game music, I was a kid playing NBA Street Volume 1. That was one of my favorite soundtracks in the video game.
Mm,
And it got me on the producer, the Herbalizer, and Ninja Tune the label. And just like the opening theme song, where they show like all the all-stars playing each other and all that stuff, that was my favorite song.
mm,
and and then now we got the internet, we got Google and YouTube, and so I finally went back and just like researched them all, and it was more than a herbalizer. And you got like DJs like DJ Food, and I was just like the DJ Kaleidoscope, I think that's what his name was, and I was just like, wow. And it is like songs. Some of these are probably not like sold publicly, but just listen to them at the time, and you find them on YouTube probably. It's just it took me back so far, and I'm just like, wow, just reliving my childhood. And then NBA Live 2003.
mm.
Uh, that's awesome. That also had heat. And that song by Fabulous, and the remix with Brandy's Full Moon with Fat Joe on it.
Mhm.
Oh, those were my favorite. And so I found those on YouTube, and I was just like, yeah, I'm saving that playlist. And so yeah, video game soundtracks, they could definitely like put on a new audience for artists. And it's amazing, like a lot of artists like coming up, they don't even know about, licensing or music supervision or putting up your songs for ads or commercials. And I tell them like, since you're starting off and streaming, a lot of times don't really benefit a lot of artists like on Spotify, you know, I would say like either getting gigs or having your songs on ads or movies or TV series, it can be very beneficial.
Yeah, I don't think that there has been a, I'm going to say an easier time for artists to get their music into those avenues like now because of things like Spotify and then the internet. You have the access to find out who these people are who can help you to get into these, like even a LinkedIn, just search up music supervisor. Boom, there you go. The access to the world of music supervisors. So
Yes.
it's not like something that I realized. Like I run a label, Damage Media Group, and I have been trying to find this person who just gives me the the one sentence is like, just do this and you'll make a lot of money. But it's like what I found out by learning about like music supervision, playlisting, and stuff like that, it's everything everybody has been saying. Like all the small things about like post every day on Instagram, like post on Facebook, post on Twitter, um, talk to your fans, like comment on stuff, like it, um, play shows, all of those things. It's like nah does, but you got to do them. Like at the end of the day, you just have to do it, and those will get you attention, which is what if you just do it enough, and and you travel enough, people are going to find you and they're going to want to use your music because you're new and you're fresh to them.
Right. I can't really speak uh, in the eyes of the artist, but what I will say, like making this podcast of mine, it truly helped me network a lot easier in terms of who I wanted to branch out and talk to. Not solely just talk about business, but to also like you, like get an education of the person, the guest who was in the music business or film production, whichever, and how to navigate through as an artist, as a music supervisor, as a producer, a label owner, as a publisher. I'm trying to gather all those. So far, I've interviewed a couple of artists. I've interviewed someone who used to be a classmate of mine online who works in Netflix. Someone who worked at Masterclass before, but now she works at Lucasfilms in music clearance, and two music supervisors based out of Tennessee. So, and an actor, or I should say a filmmaker, because he does a lot of stuff in the film. He was recently on Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3, and so just getting those perspectives really helped me out. And then in the end, got me network. I don't know if you see the shirt, but the Guild of Music Supervisors, they just had their ninth annual conference, and that was my second conference uh, this past August. And I say, like, for a lot of artists, you know, check that out. Check out the guild because there's a lot. It ain't just music supervisors. There's also artists, publishers, labels, sponsors, and all that stuff. So it's quite a networking opportunity, I can say for sure.
What do you think is probably like the hardest thing that you have to, I guess, overcome? Being in the film world, trying to navigate it, understand, what's going on. I would think the hardest part is really just, as I just said, like understanding what's going on. Like, there's so much change happening, just like in um, streaming. So like, I think somebody that's trying to make a big come up is like Peacock and Apple TV. I think they came in a little late into the game. Even Paramount, but Paramount's kind of, they don't have as much material as the other ones, but they're kind of joining. I think if you get like YouTube TV, then you get Paramount. So like, I, I guess I'm just curious on, how do you find ways to keep up with everything that's just, happening around you in that industry?
Uh, Basically finding the people who knows like what's going on, because you can research a lot on the internet, and either you believe that information or you don't. That's up to you. But for me, truly, like, so I'm based out in Georgia. So when opportunity comes in LA, I got to spend money to fly across country and uh, network with people and find people who I can find professionals that I can learn from and talk to and have a simple conversation. And, within that conversation, they'll dive deep into like what's going on in the entertainment industry as a whole or as separate entities as far as film or music. So it's just like finding the right resource, I would say, uh, especially if you want to have like a professional explain things to you because again, it's a lot. It's easier to just look up something on the internet, but finding the right uh, resource, the right source, a person who knows exactly what's going on. I say that probably be the hardest.
Yeah, and it can be difficult sometimes because like one, some people don't know your intentions. You know, they have no idea like, you know, what is he trying to do? Like what do I need to what am I actually trying to tell this person? But like a lot of times I tell people if you want some information from somebody, try and make it seem like you can also add value to them. So if you can
Yes.
do that, they're going to be more inclined to help you out because you're like, oh, they're trying to help me out as well. So let me just help them. They're not just sucking information out of me. They're trying to do more of a real conversation, like a real meeting between us two instead of just, you know, trying to steal something from me. So that that is a hard thing, you know, finding out who are these people that know the info that I want. So that's I definitely see that as a big time struggle. Is there somebody that you have, I guess, found or come across that you were like, I had no idea that that person, you know, was this easily accessible, or I had no idea I'd be able to talk to this person. I mean, just like your instructor, you know, from wholesale class.
Yeah, so I found a music supervisor on LinkedIn. So what's crazy is that LinkedIn's algorithm, like I don't know what it is. So when I was in my bachelor's before Full Sail, I created my LinkedIn and I forgot what job title or job career I wanted to look for. And I posted on there, but I had like 230 something connections. Usually they say like uh 500 is the best you can get. As soon as I graduated Full Sail, a few years later, I put in aspiring music supervisor. I look and like almost a month later, I'm at like 700 connections.
Dang.
Yeah. And I was like, what is going on? And so now LinkedIn has put me in this world where like there are music supervisors around me. I'm just like, oh, wow, I didn't know these people are on here. And so I found one guy. He posted a lot of TikTok videos on TikTok and LinkedIn. So that's how I found him on LinkedIn. And
Mm,
he just posting daily activities as a music supervisor, putting in notes and everything, and they were pretty entertaining. And then he put out a post saying that he was going to teach his first class online through the UCLA extension program for this amount of dollars. And I said, okay, let me try it. So I applied, spent this money, and his name is Ryan Svensson, and he's worked on um, he just wrapped up Expendables 4, and he also did La La Land.
okay.
So that's where I met the my two classmates that I interviewed, one who works at Netflix and the other one who works at Lucasfilms. And just seeing all the aspiring music supervisors or those who are already working in their career fields, wanting to learn more about this field because now it's becoming more well known to the public. At first, it wasn't like as big back then. Nobody was really paying much attention to it. But now it's just like people are starting to get the idea more and more. And I guess, everybody's watching these streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu, and they're watching their shows and they're hearing these catchy tunes. And then now we have Shazam app and like, wow, I was like, how did they do this? How do they do that? How can I, as a person of music, can get involved in this? And so there was like 49, 50 of us students in that class, and it was 3 hours every Wednesday for from like April to June, if I'm not mistaken. And so just learning the basics of music supervision as a whole, and he'll bring in guest speakers every week. And so I found crazy enough, he knows a music supervisor and he's good friends with her. and she happened to be from Full Sail.
Mm.
Her name is Livy Rodriguez, and she graduated. I want to say a few years before I did, maybe around like 2016, 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So not that far off. And so what listen to her speak and learning what she's done, especially for like indie films. I was like, I gotta connect with her. I gotta connect with Livy. I gotta connect with Ryan, some of the people in the guild. And from that point on, it was just a networking journey from that point.
Yeah, that's awesome because that you're just making all these connections like left and right and intentional but unintentional at the same time. Like is
Yeah.
as and I tell people all the time. Somebody was asking me, they were like, how would you feel if some big name star like wanted to work with you? And I'd be like, I don't know. It would just feel like it was supposed to happen because I work hard and this is supposed to happen. And I was like, I would be happier and feel more overjoyed if you had told me I want a lifetime supply of honey buns because
Mm.
that mean I did nothing to get that. You just gave
Yeah.
me a lifetime supply of honey buns. So there's no skill involved in that. So I should be super excited and happy because that's just pure luck. But
Yeah.
I work hard at what I do. So if somebody, um, big time wanted to work with me, it's like, yeah, I worked for this. These opportunities should happen. So
Yeah.
that's the cool thing about I guess meeting those kind of people and being involved with them is like, you're definitely appreciative for them to take the time to work with you and everything. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, this is what I work for. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be talking to people like this. So
Yeah. One thing me and my friends, when we graduated Full Sail, one thing that we learned is that when we know exactly what we wanted to do and we push ourselves moving forward and, not looking back, the world seems to be getting smaller and smaller. Like these professionals are within an arm's reach of you at this point.
yeah.
And it's just like when I was introduced to Livy and she was from Full Sail, I was just like, wow. And then the next speaker we had uh worked on Kanye's uh oh God, what was that album? With jail and everything.
I don't remember the name of it.
I don't remember the name of it either, but he spoke to us, and then we met the composer who worked on the original Spider-Man 3.
Hmm.
And so it's just like, wow, it's just you feel like you belong here, but like at the same time the world is getting smaller and smaller. And my friends, we made this indie film together that I'm music supervising right now. Where we have like we know exactly what we're skilled in each department. Writing, camera, producing, storytelling, whatever. They are meeting professionals within their department too. And so they're networking. And so we're all creating our own networks within each department.
Hmm.
And it's just like, wow, how is the world getting smaller and smaller? Like our director of photography, uh, Xander, he met the guy that he looked up to as a director of photographer.
Wow.
It was at a convention in LA, and he took a picture with him, and he kept telling me like how much he was geeking out. So like that's what we kept saying, like how's like this world is getting smaller and smaller. So it's just motivating us to one day build our film studio at one point. We're trying to invest in more projects, get more investors involved, and create new content, new films. So that's why I always tell people, you just keep pushing forward on something that you know that you want to do. The world's just going to keep getting smaller and smaller, and and like you said, you worked hard for this. So it's just like it's like a surprise, but then it's not because you knew exactly where you wanted to go because you worked so hard to get here.
Yeah, I've had a couple experiences like that. Like, what happened? Dang, I'm trying to think of the name of this Dern event. They do it in Nashville every year. but
Mhm.
it's like something with music. I can't remember the name. But anyways, so I went to this event and one of the currently in Memphis, by the way. So
Okay.
I go to this event in Nashville, and some of the first speakers are a couple people from Memphis, and
Mhm.
one of them is Kadeem Phillips, and I didn't even have a clue who he was, but I'm listening to him and this other guy speak, and he was actually the guy who found Nelly. Like I think
Wow.
he stays in like the St. Louis area, but cool people. They're just talking, and at the end of it, I go up to Kadeem, and he's giving out everybody his cell phone number. I'm like, oh snap! You know, most people. I'm not even like that. Like I don't give everybody my cell phone. So he's giving people his number, his contact info, and stuff. I'm like, cool. And I guess because he realizes it's a professional event, so people aren't going to be like bugging him on some dumb stuff.
Mhm.
But so, anyways, I find out that he actually is Hit Kid's manager. You know, Hit Kid and Glorilla had F&F, so he's Hit Kid's
Mhm.
manager. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Well, later that week, this was on like a Monday, and it was either Monday or Tuesday, and then that Wednesday, um, BeatStars was having an event at the studio in Nashville. The studio they were having it at was actually a studio I had previously just popped up to. Like I called them, was like, "Hey, are you open?" They were like, "Yeah." I was like, "Cool, I want to take some photos and videos for you." And they were like, "Okay, cool." There was nobody there, and I just took some photos and videos for them. This is a while back before the story I'm actually telling. And so when I go there, I already knew the owner of the studio. And so I'm literally just hanging out with him and talking to him the whole time while like there's tons of producers and stuff in the room. And like I think he's now the president of music or something for BeatStars. He was there
Okay.
and like some other people were there. And sure enough, Kadeem pops up. And I'm like, oh snap, Kadeem's here again. And so later, I was like, I'm not gonna bug him though. Obviously, I want to bug him, but I'm like, I'm not gonna bug him.
Right.
So I'm about to leave, and he's actually outside, literally standing right next to my vehicle, and so that's when I bug him. And so I'm
You
talking
had to.
exactly right. So I'm talking to him. I'm like, hey man, if Hit Kid ever wants some like photos or videos or something, just let me know. And he was like, "Oh man, that'd be great." He was like, "He really needs somebody to follow him around and stuff like that." Now, I actually have a full-time job. And I was like, "Yeah, sure." No, I
It'd be
could,
like that.
yeah, I could not do it, but I just said yeah anyways because I don't know what's going to happen. So I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was like, yeah, I mean, if you have like, do you have a studio around? He was like, yeah, I got a studio here in Nashville. He was like, if you want to, you can just go to the studio and just take some photos and videos there or whatever you want to do. And I was like, cool. And he texts me like the code to get into his studio and everything. So I go there. There's some people in there, and one of the guys that was in there, he produces a lot of music for some big name artists. And um, then when I was leaving, there was a couple guys coming in, and one of them's name was Clay, and he introduced himself as Clay, but I literally had no idea who he was. And I was like, okay, cool, your name's Clay, cool, whatever. And I'm leaving. Well, found out his name is Clay Crucial, and he's a Memphis artist, and he's done like a lot of music with some big name artists. Tay Keith has done some beats for him. Um, who else has done some stuff with him? Oh, you remember that song "Damn"? It was so Hit Kid made the beat, and it was Clay and I think Lil Migo or something. Where like the chorus like "Damn, damn, 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 damn."
Yeah. Yeah.
That was Clay and Lil Migo.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then Clay's done some other music. He's done music with NLE Choppa and some other people, but like literally. I just asked a one question, and I can put and I'm running into all these people, and I'm like, man, that was pretty cool. And just because I showed up to that event, you know what I mean? Like I just showed up to that event and ended up meeting all these cool people. Um, and I met other people throughout the whole thing. But yeah, it was just as we've been talking about, just do things that the people you admire are doing, and then you, as you said, the world just kind of gets smaller and smaller.
I will say, because you mentioned Glorilla, like I said, I'm in Atlanta, so there was a time when I was after I get off of my full time job, I was working at uh, this media group called Fusion Radio, and the premise is that clients come in and they rent the studio to host their podcasts. So this was before I had my podcast up, and one of our clients was a husband and wife duo, and they were music booking agents. Uh, I ran audio work for their show for a good 3 to 4 months, and I stopped for a minute, and next thing I knew, I followed their page, and the wife, she books artists. A lot of them are based out of Tennessee because that's where they're from. Next thing you know, Glorilla has that puts out the fuck nigga free song.
Yeah, F and F.
Yeah. And next thing you know, I see the wife is managing her now.
Oh snap!
And I was like, whoa. And I just see her Instagram, I see her Instagram just full of Glorilla concerts and stage performances while she's in the backstage. I was like, huh. And then there was that video where Glorilla was on the jet and she got the deal done. And
Yeah.
so at that point, I don't think she's managing her anymore. Now she's signed to an actual label. And so just like, wow, like I've known I've known the wife to be like booking rappers from Tennessee. It just never put two to two together that Glorilla is from Tennessee, but now she'd be her manager. I just didn't put two and two together. And then I saw her Instagram page. I was like, wow, I just know someone who used to be her manager.
Yeah,
So the world got small before I even knew it.
yeah, those types of things. It kind of is like, man, like, what's next? You know what I mean? Like you'll have that feeling of like, what am I about to do next? Like I'm meeting all these people and they're doing all these cool things. So, what's happening next? And it gets you excited. And then sometimes also it can be kind of demoralizing because you're like, "Oh, well, I'm this close. Like what else do I gotta do?"
Yeah.
But it's
I will, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it's fun thinking about those things.
Yeah. And, it is tough in this industry to get where you want to be. I know, I'll share personally. Uh, I had an sort of an opportunity to work for ESPN as a music assistant. And, I just casually, this was like right before the pandemic came in. I just casually saw the position. I applied, not really having like experience. So just hoping that, hey, maybe they could teach me while I'm employed and hope for the best from there. A couple months later, I get an email, not by Disney, because, when you get that email from the Disney, it's like either it's like you really didn't get the job, or it's like, thank you for applying. Look for more opportunities. But I saw the name of the person in that department. I was like, that's different. And it said, we saw your application and we were wondering if you'd be open for a phone interview. I immediately said, yeah. So did the interview on the phone. A couple days later, or a few days later, I get an email saying like, we enjoyed your interview on the phone. Would you do another interview online on Zoom? I was like, heck yeah. I never done 2 interviews before. My my full-time job didn't give me 2 interviews, just 1, and I got
Oh,
the job. So I was like, "Okay, ESPN giving me 2 interviews." Like, I don't know who else could, like, say that. And so we got the interview done, I dressed up and everything, said all the things I said on the phone, try to add some more stuff to pitch myself more. And then a week later, I didn't get the job.
mm,
So it was like, and that was pretty hard. And I was already going through some things personally, and that just like added a whole nother weight into it. And I was just like, man, it's like I got my hopes up because I got a second interview and like ESP, this is ESPN we're talking about.
yeah.
And I was like willing to make the move all the way to Connecticut and figure out whatever. I've I lived in New York before. I'm originally from New York, so I was like, I'll deal with the winter however I can. But yeah, so I was just like, okay. So from that point on, that's when I motivated myself to make this podcast and start looking at the guild of music supervisors, start networking, and get to a point where I can say like, hey, ESPN, uh, I'm offering my services as music supervisor. Would we like to collab or again, I'm applying to you with all these credentials on my resume now. What now?
Yeah. Yeah, and as I was saying, like that being that close, you just like, what else do you
Yeah.
do you want?
Yeah. So
But
that was my demoralizing moment right there. And then the pandemic came on. It was just like it was like the worst of times, man. It was like the worst of times. And then Kobe passed away. It's just like like one after another and another and another. It's just like even when things don't really deal with my career, it's just like man, it's just like your brain gets all shattered. You need to find a way to reset yourself and uh that's when like music really helped me out through like the roughest of times there, whether through the TV shows and I'm like listening to music from around the world at that point. So I'm just like, man, I want to get involved with that kind of music from Asia to South America to uh India, even to the indigenous tribes. Like it helped me through it. So I just wanted to like push myself more to learn this music and then get into the business side of it and see like what can I do professionally.
in your work of discovering music, is there somebody that I would say, feels like, oh man, this person's going to be huge, like they're going to be big?
Oh man, that's a lot. Well, I will say like, uh, and these bands are probably like already big and already out there. Um, but I found this one Mongolian band,
Mm.
and they're like more like rock, and they're called the Who, HU, and it's like this not there's like they had a nice music video. It's like this they're like their biker gangs, like all black and white, and they're riding motorcycles through Mongolia on the plains and stuff like that.
Mm.
And I've been binge I've been binging their songs, and then what I didn't know is that one of my favorite songs they actually collaborated also for a remix with the lead singer of Papa Roach.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was just like, well, wait a minute, when how did this happen? And it's on Spotify too. And I was just like, wow. And it's a great remix. Like
Hmm.
uh I think the lead singer of Papa Roach, I think his name is Jacoby, if I'm not mistaken. He really added a really great sort of Western mix into that song. Like it blended pretty well, and both of them are like rock heads. So obviously they knew exactly the language of certain like music styles.
That's pretty cool. Like I did not expect
Yeah.
you to say something Mongolian.
I told you my ears went around the world. It took a whole world tour throughout the pandemic. So when I tell you that these artists that you ain't even hear of, that you won't even understand, like I heard a lot of it. Oh, but you know what? I just thought of an artist. Unlike Pluto.
Hmm. Okay.
He's I think he's based out of Canada, and his songs are like very chill dance sort of type vibe songs.
Hmm.
And I think his songs would be very great for in terms of like sync wise. And one day I would like to collaborate with him one day. He has like I think like maybe like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of listeners, but he constantly puts out music. And I mean constantly. And one of his songs I like was Canada, um, New Life, Who Dis, and man, I can't think of the song that first got put on, but it's like he's addressing like, climate change, but he does it so well that I'm like, wow, is this ever like if I'm ever thinking of like a film or anything like this song could definitely work.
That's pretty cool that I don't know what it is about Canadian people, but the fact that you just picked out a Canadian person just it 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 warms my soul because I think about Canadian people like Drake, The Weeknd,
Yeah,
Party Next
yeah.
Door, um, not just is Justin Bieber Canadian?
Mhm. Yep.
There you go. So yeah, all these people are all from Canada, and they are killing it in America, and
Absolutely.
it just it's something that I made a realization a while back. Oh, and well, not right now, but Tory Lanez.
Oh, I didn't know he was Canadian either.
Yeah, yeah. I actually found Tory Lanez um when let's see, what year was it? This was like 2010. It was like my freshman year in college. So yeah, I went to Full Sail, but I also went to Jacksonville State in Alabama. But
Mhm.
so I don't even know how I found him. Oh, I think do you remember this might not I don't even know if this is still a website, hotnewhiphop.com. But
I've heard of it, but I never actually like explored through there.
yeah, so back in the mixtape days,
Uh,
everybody would go to like Dat Piff and live mixtapes. What I would do is I think it was like every Saturday or something like that, I would go on
mhm.
hotnewhiphop.com and look at the new music that had been coming out. And I think one week or whatever, Tory Lanez had some music on there. And I was like, dang, this dude's good. And I was like listening to him and looked him up on YouTube, found like a video. The first song I heard from him was called Wooden Beads. And you can still
Mm,
find that video on YouTube. But he sounds completely different from what he used to. I mean, that was 13 years ago. But I thought he was going to be a really big artist. And I never heard anything from him until probably like 4 years ago, or no, probably more than that. Let's see, probably about 2015 or 2016 is when I heard more new music from Tory. And
that's when I found him.
okay, yeah, so that's when he started getting popular again. And
Mhm.
I was like, I remember this guy. Like I listened to this guy, as I said, like in 2010, and so he just started, you know, becoming popular in like 2015 or something like that. So yeah, Canadian people, man, they know the sauce. They've got it.
Yeah, I found Tory. I think it was on that song he collaborated with Meek Mill, Liddy.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think that's when I first heard Tory Lanez, and I was just like, yeah, I like Tory's part in that song. So I think that's what hooked me in,
yeah.
and I was just like jamming with that song through college, and I was just like, yeah, I don't think I've heard any of his like mixtapes back then, especially like way back in the early 2010s. So
Mhm.
like you said, he sounds different. I don't know, because maybe it's the auto tune that he likes to use a lot, but yeah, like that was when I first heard Tory Lanez. But like a lot of music that we consume in America is just like, especially now these days, are like people from Canada, artists from Canada or the UK. I started listening to more drill music
Hmm.
coming out of the UK. Some of the UK rappers, I'm like, yeah, and I'm just like, I think it made me comfortable listening to it because I'm from New York, and so you hear that uh sort of like Nigerian based or Jamaican based accents. I
Hmm.
don't know what it is, but it's just like it felt more like home. Uh, and just hearing that song and then the drill beat, it's just I don't know what it is. Like as a music person, like you can tell the difference between UK drill and American trap beat.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I feel like more on the UK drill. It's just something about it, something more like fluid about it than American trap. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I mean, music has different flavors, and like wherever you're at, people tend to take people's style and change it up a little bit. There famously, ASAP Rocky has been saying that Travis Scott stole his style, and everybody's like, ASAP, you're from New York and you took Houston style. So yeah, I mean everybody thinks they've, and I tell God, this one kid from here, he was showing me hyper pop. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Hyper pop is like this new genre that's coming up, but I think it sounds like old school, probably like 80s, like when they started using like synthesizers a lot and stuff like that. I think it sounds
Well, I'm
like,
not the only one who thought that. I'm not
okay,
the only
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, this isn't new. Like y'all just are
Yeah,
too young to know about it. And I guess they just think that they created this new wave of music because it's all young people doing it. Now, don't get me wrong,
yeah,
it sounds great. Like I like listening to it, but I'm just like, this just sounds like sped up older music that y'all, it's like if 80s synthesizer type funk music mixed
mhm.
with dubstep or something like that. Like that's
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it goes back to Stranger Things.
Yes.
Like this generation wouldn't know anything about running up that hill,
Correct. Yeah.
and now that they watch the whole fourth season of it, and they keep hearing that song, and now all of a sudden this new generation is blasting that song, and I'm just like, wow. And but because the thing about it is, Stranger Things is '80s uh, culture.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
pop culture show.
Yeah.
And so this generation is like so infatuated with the '80s lifestyle in terms of like the colors and the style of clothing and the automobiles and the hairstyles.
Hmm.
And then you add in the music to that, the generation is going to buy into that and make space because they're so infatuated with that culture. And now they got the music to vibe alongside with it. And so now they're going to come out with remixes, and you're going to hear different samples coming from the '80s. You're going to hear a whole lot more of that. And so um, now that you explained it to me, so like, yeah, a hyper pop, if that's what we're going to call it, then that makes sense because you're just going to take a whole bunch of stuff of the '80s and you're going to add this new generation style of creating music to it.
Yeah. Like I just thought it was so funny that they gave it a name, and I'm just like, you guys didn't create this. I mean, I guess you did. Like you created
Yeah,
the facade of it, but it was already here. You just gave it a different name and changed it up a little bit. So yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty funny. I predict, even though I'm 31 and I have lived through a lot of different reenactments, like movies and music. So like when I hear, I think there's a girl, a rapper, her name's Bi, and then she had that song Bi with Lil Jon. I remember when Bi from Lil Jon came out. I think it was on. It might have been, is that Crunk Juice? I think it was Crunk Juice was the name of Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. But
yeah.
like I remember when that song came out and people are already like sampling it, remixing it. Even Tory Lanez, he does his chicks tapes, and he'll have
Mhm.
like he'll do remixes of like Destiny's Child music and stuff like that. And I've been with people and they're like, "Oh my God, this sound so good." And I'm just like, "What are you talking about? Like this is a remix." They're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm
Yeah.
just like, "This is a remix. Like this song was already done before." And I'll show them the original song. They're like, "Oh my God."
And they don't have no idea.
No idea. So yeah, I
So
mean,
that
it's coming back around, all this stuff.
so then that brings you into the perspective of a music supervisor and to say that they're tasked to clear that song. So
Oh,
now, yeah, so now you gotta look back and talk to the people who originally owns that sample, get that cleared, and then talk to the people who has this song. And yeah, that's a tedious task. I can only imagine.
It's about time to wrap up. I do want you to first of all, thank you for coming on and doing this. Been a pleasure to talk to you, and I definitely think we should keep up for sure. Please give everybody ways they can reach you, your name of your podcast, how they can find that, and anything else you have to tell people about.
Yeah, so again, my name is Jeremiah Moss, and our podcast called the Playlist Shuffle Podcast, where we talk about everything music and film wise. Uh, it's streaming on Spotify, and you can look it up on our YouTube page, the Playlist Shuffle Podcast. If you want to be a guest, contact me on the Playlist Shuffle Podcast at Gmail, and follow our Instagram, uh, same by the title name, and follow my personal at jmalley_guy, and my Facebook and our YouTube.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for coming on. We definitely covered a lot of things that I thought we would, and it's always
Yeah.
good to talk to somebody who knows, these types of things and is involved in the industry because I think the people who watch my podcast will definitely um, be grateful to be able to hear, from your mouth how other people think about what's going on in the industry and all that kind of stuff. So again, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and shout out to your podcast as well. And I will say, since you're in Tennessee, check out Triple Threat Music Supervision or Triple Threat Supervision.
Okay.
Those were the guests that I had on previously on my podcast. So that's their music supervision company that they run,
Mm,
and so they've done a lot of film and TV and also video games. So you get a chance, you can check them out.
awesome. Awesome. Will do. All right. Well, thank you for everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.